Hello everybody, it's really good to be back. It's been quite a few weeks since my last podcast and I feel a bit rusty because it's been about 5 weeks I think. Lots of be lots of leaning to get stuff. I've got a huge amount of things to show you and share. Another there. It's just really nice to be back and to be feeling better. So this is episode 14 of Bumble Stitches podcast. My name's Nicola. Thank you ever so much for bearing with me and coming back if you are a subscriber to the podcast and you've been following me through the previous episodes. And if you're new today, then thank you ever so much, and I hope it won't be too ummy and rambly and that you can stick with me till the end. I will just start out by saying that I have had a bit of a break. I had to go in and have some surgery on my back, which was long overdue. I've had a few problems with it. So the last 2 weeks have been a bit trying, to say the least. Been a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, but well on the way to recovery now. I've had some really nice get well wishes from people and some lovely flowers and gifts, some of which I'll share with you later. And yeah, really lovely support from everybody. So thank you for bearing with me. Particularly I'd like to thank the people in my Ravelry group, the podcast Ravelry group, for their patience. I've not been really present on the forum, and I do apologise for that. But I'm going to sit down later on and hopefully catch up with everything that's going on there. So yeah, I've been a bit missing from those sort of things. So hopefully I can catch up and get back up to speed with everything really soon. But it is lovely to be back. As I said, I've had a bit of a trying couple of weeks, and today is the first day that I've actually put my face on and feel a little bit more human, a bit more like me. So I thought it would be the ideal opportunity to put a podcast out and catch up with everything. And just feel a bit more with it really. So first of all, I'd like to just recap on the knit along that I have going on in the Ravelry group, which is the Try Something New knit along. And I have had a look at some of the finished objects that you guys have been popping in there, and they are incredible. There are fish lips kiss heels, lace socks being knit for the first time, colourwork sweaters. Someone's even tried steeking for the first time. So there are lots and lots of wonderful projects that have been popped into that thread, and you've all been trying new things, and I think it's just incredible. And I'm really happy that you've been playing along, even if I have been kind of letting you all get on with it on your own. So thank you for that and for your participation so far, and also for the chatter thread. There's been lots of nice chatter and support amongst the group there, so that's all, more than I could have hoped for. So thank you ever so much. We do still have another week left of the knit along. It ends next Sunday, which is the 2nd of July, and there will be prizes. So I'll show you the prizes again, just in case you haven't seen them. And there's an extra surprise as well. So I'll just, let me just show you a recap of what we've already seen. So there'll be 2 prizes for the randomly selected from the finished objects thread and also from the chatter thread. So this will be one prize, which is a little project bag with gnomes on, which I made, and some lovely mini skeins from Paula at Paper Stories, and a little stitch marker progress keeper there as well. So that's going to be one prize. There's another one very similar, which is gnomes again on a project bag in the red colourway, and some more mini skeins to go with that. So that's another prize. And seeing as I was just so blown away by how well you've all taken to my first knit along, I thought I would do a special prize, which I will select from either of the threads. And it's not going to be a random generator. It's going to be somebody that I think deserves a prize just because. A bit like in the Oscars when people get Lifetime Achievement Awards and all that kind of thing. So I just think it's so nice that you have all participated so much, that a little extra prize was in order. So I picked up this beautiful little project bag. and this is made by Sherry Iris Designs on Etsy. And I saw one of her project bags on Amy's of the Little Tailoress podcast and thought it was beautiful. And by chance I was lucky enough to go on Sherry's Etsy shop, and there was a bag in stock, so I grabbed it. And how fabulous is this? On the back, hand embroidered, one more row, which I think we've all been heard to be saying when our other halves and families want us to get on with something else, just one more row. So how cool is that? This little bag has, well, it's got the embroidery on the front. I'm not sure what flower that is. And it's got a really cute floral lining. And inside it, there's beautiful little lavender pouch, which would be nice as a sort of scissor keep thing. Is it keeper or keep, do they call them? And there's a little tea bag in there, which is organic pomegranate tea. So that's in there. This is a really sort of dinky size bag, perfect for socks or any other little tiny project that you're working on. But it's so well made, it's beautiful. And I thought, well, what would go with that nicely? So this is from my stash. It's a skein of yarn from Zena at Little Yellow Uke Crafts. And I thought it went with the sort of like the purple on the embroidery, sort of lavendery colour. This yarn is actually called Parma Violets, but I thought they went particularly nicely together. So this will be Nicola's special prize for the knit along. So 3 prizes up for grabs, and I will be choosing my special prize and also the random prizes from the finished object and chatter threads next Sunday when the cow ends. What I will probably do, in all honesty, is let the knit along run until the end of Sunday, just in case anyone's finishing things up, and close the thread off on Monday morning, which will be the 3rd of July. So even if you haven't had chance to finish your project, then keep chattering in the chatter thread about your project and sharing your progress, and I can choose from those threads on Monday, and I think it's super exciting. So I'll pop that down because I keep patting it. Now, talking about the Try Something New cowl, my something new is sitting in this little project bag from Mrs. Brown's Bags, and I decided to have a go at lace knitting with beads, which is something I'd never done before and was a bit frightened of. So I chose to knit, just trying to find the pattern page with the picture on. This is the Fairy Hill shawl, which is from Curious Handmade, and it involves beadwork and lace, which was a bit of a fail actually at my own knit along, because I haven't completed it and it won't be completed by next week, but hey. So this is how far I've got. I'm just trying to make some sense because it's all on the needles and all in a bit of a tangle. So this is how far I've got. I'm going to attempt to show you. I don't know if the camera's going to pick up the beading. The beads are sort of a turquoise colour. You can just about see them in there. They are in there though, I can assure you. So that's how far I've got with it. The great thing about Helen's patterns is you can always tell percentage wise how far you are in the pattern, because she gives you a percentage checklist. And if I check on my row counter, row 66, so I am at approximately 35% of the project. So let's say a bit of a fail, but it will get finished. The yarn I'm using is by Hedgerow Yarns, and it's a beautiful multicoloured hand-dyed skein of singles with a stellina base. Not sure the colour's really picking up. It's a bit more vivid there, isn't it? It's beautiful yarn, and the beads I'm using, in case you couldn't see them clearly on the shawl, are this beautiful teal colour. So yeah, I'm really enjoying doing it. I just need to crack on. I've had quite a big distraction in my knitting, which I'm going to share with you in finished objects in a moment. But keep on with your try something new, Cows, and I hope it encourages you to continue to try something new, because I think everyone's realised that some of the things that we as knitters think, oh, that's a bit too difficult for me, I'll make a mess of it and I won't even try. I think we've shown ourselves really that we can do it, and you just need to have a bit of faith in yourself, and what's the worst that can happen? It's only knitting. You can always rip it out and start again, so keep on knitting on those new things. Okay, I'll just pop that over there. Let's have a look at some finished objects. Now the first is a Fireflies Rising shawlette that I have knitted. It's a bit sort of see-through, isn't it? I don't know if it's making the colour blow out a little bit. That's better. This is knitted in Paper Stories UK yarn from the lovely Paula, and she is going to be vending at Fibre East at the end of next month, and she put a call out on Instagram because I know although she's a fabulous dyer and an excellent crocheter, she's still quite new at knitting, and she wanted to get some samples for her stand at the show. So she put a call out on Instagram, and quite a few people have answered, and she asked us to knit a one skein project so that she has some samples for her stand. So this is Fireflies Rising, which is a one skein shawlette by Curious Handmade. So I'm a bit all Curious Handmaded up at the moment, and if you can see, I don't know if the camera's playing up a bit, it is a Stellina yarn. Now this is in her Pansy Parkinson colourway, one of the Harry Potter inspired yarns, which she does so well, and it's sock weight yarn, 75% superwash merino, 15% nylon, 10% Stellina, 100 grams, 400 meters. And this did this pattern with only the tiniest amount of yarn left over, so which is great because it's nice to be able to use a whole skein with not too much left over. And if you've got that special skein of yarn which you're hoarding in your stash, this is a perfect pattern to do something with that special skein of yarn. It's a nice easy knit, just stocking it up to the point which the sort of firefly design starts. I'm just going to try and show you. I popped some pictures on my Instagram which might be a little bit clearer, but you can see the little yarn overs and make like a fireflies as if they've got their little wings spread out. And I particularly like the ribbed edging on this one as well. And seeing as the weather had been so nice, I actually soaked this in Eucalan and then popped it on the washing line with lots and lots of pegs across the top to stretch it out. And it's the first time I've ever blocked on the line outside, and I think it came out really, really well. And the way the heat was the other day, it dried literally in about 45 minutes to an hour. It was dry, so it was perfect. So this will be winging its way back to Paper Stories UK, and yeah, I hope it helps make the stand look pretty at Fibre East. And you can find Paula's yarns on Etsy at Paper Stories UK, and if you're going along to the show to Fibre East, which I believe is in Bedford, at the end of July, then do pop along and see her and buy some of her beautiful yarn, and you can say hi to the Fireflies Rising. So that's a finished object. Now the next finished object is an almost finished object. It has taken up an awful lot of time, and it's the Joji Locatelli's Mystery Knit Along, which was the starting point wrap. Now it's going to be impossible to get this all in the frame because it is so big, but I'm going to attempt it. I still have ends to weave in. I'm going to attempt to hold it up. So this is the centre point here, and sort of see if I can almost like scroll it up. So then one of the ends, and then I'll just disappear behind here like a magician, and so on and so on and so on, back to the centre. And well, you get the picture. It's huge, but I love it. So I really don't learn. I should learn that when you get a few ends to sew in, that you should just stop knitting and sew them in. But sewing in the ends is like my nemesis. I hate it with a passion. And the thought of, or the choice of do some more knitting or sew some ends in, it's always going to be knitting. So it does mean that I have got an awful amount still to sew in. But I'm doing a few at a time. That's the only way I can really manage it. Just sort of do about 10 or so at a time. And then hopefully it'll be done soon. And I'm not sure whether to block it, because it really doesn't need to be any bigger. But some of these twisted rib sections seem to sort of dip a little bit, so it might need a little bit of gentle blocking just to bring it into shape. And there's a tiny, where you join the sections up, there's a tiny gap in the middle, which Hoki says you can either just leave as a design feature or you can just close that up. I probably will close that up anyway, just to make it look nice and neat. But I'm really, really pleased with it. I'm pleased with my yarn choices, and I'm pleased that it's done and that I kind of kept up with it. But it is a huge amount of knitting, and I think if I had seen the size of it before I started, it may not have ever happened. So this is half of it. I'll just tell you about the yarns that I used. Hopefully I can remember them all. If not, I've got the bands in here. So let's use the bigger sections to show you. So the speckled yarn that I used was Hedgehog Fibres skinny singles in their Film Noir colourway. This one here is also Hedgehog Fibres skinny singles in the, I think it was Dusky Rose. Hang on, let's have a look on the ball band, which I've put somewhere else. I'm sure it was called Dusk or Dusky Rose. I think it was Dusk. The beigey colour here is Lichen and Lace in the linen colourway, and the one next to it is also Lichen and Lace in the Faded Roses colourway. And the darkest one is Madeline Tosh, and it is called Leopard, which is a bit strange because I don't really think leopards are that colour, but who am I to argue? So those are my colour choices. They're all singles, which I think have given it a lovely, it's sort of really, when I folded it up and had it on the end of the sofa yesterday, it was in like in a big squishy pile like this, and it's so bouncy and dense. I think it's going to make a lovely wrap when the weather's warm, but just holding it now is making me feel warm. So that's the starting point mystery knit along, which is finally finished. And yeah, it has really taken up all my knitting time lately. So let's just get those ends sewn in, and then that one will be complete. So quite a big finished object. Interestingly enough though, when I finished the knitting, I'm just getting these out of the project bag, it was very odd the way the yarns ended up. So this is what I had left. So these two particularly quite a reasonable amount, not so much of the leopard and the linen, but ironically the colourway that I really loved the most, which was the Film Noir, I had this little scrap left. So I'm not quite sure if that was the way it was meant to be, or it was just my gauge, or if I've made a mistake somewhere. But yeah, so largest left over, smallest left over. But it might just be enough to pop in my blanket. My granny stripe blanket, which is there. I don't think I'd even get a whole row out of it, but I certainly don't want to waste it because it is such a beautiful yarn. So I might just pop half a row on and then just finish it off with the linen. With regards to my colour choices for this, as I mentioned, I do love them and I think they are quite wearable. But the only thing I would have done differently had I realised the way the pattern was going to work out is that my number one colour, which is the linen, was so similar to the background colourway colour of the Film Noir that it's hard to tell the difference. So for example, on this section here, this is the linen section with the eyelets, which then goes into the Film Noir garter stitch, and if the eyelets weren't there you wouldn't even know that that was a separate section. So if I had known different, and the same here as well, you can see there is actually a row of linen either side of the film noir, but it kind of blends in. So it isn't quite as distinctive in its colour changes of the sort of chevron stripes as some other examples that I've seen. But I don't think it makes too much difference, and I think overall the colourways work really well. Hopefully they suit my colouring, and I think with sort of black things in the winter it's going to look really, really nice, and it's going to be ideal, I think, just to take out, even if you're in the car and you don't want to put a coat on, but you can just wrap this around you, and no matter how cold it got, you'd never get cold with this beast wrapped around you. So yeah, so a few more ends to sew in and that'll be done. Let's pop that over there as well. Okay, so that's the finished objects. Next would be whips, I guess. Now I've shown you my mystery, my try something new knit along, which I'm about 35% way through. And now that the starting point wrap is done, I don't actually have many things on my needles. So I still have to finish off my apple blossom socks. So again, Curious Handmade pattern. I'm not sponsored by Curious Handmade. So that's the pattern there. I have shared these several times. They really need to be off the needles now. So that's one sock and two socks. So it's almost at the point of doing the toe now. I think it's about 2 pattern repeats in the toe to do. So now that yeah, my big distraction's out of the way, I can get these finished off and have an FO for the next podcast. So pop those away. They live in my little bobbins bag, which I love. And other than that, I'm just trying to think if I've got any other works in progress. I've got the granny stripe, which is here, which hasn't had, not very good at twizzling round, hasn't had a lot of love on it lately. The little progress keeper here was the last time I think I podcast, so it's literally only a few rows, but I just sat and did a few while we were watching TV the other night, just to remind myself that I could remember how to crochet. But it's such a fab pattern, and I do love my blanket, and it is coming on really well, so I should just keep on with that. So yeah, so what do we do when we don't have many whips? We cast on, don't we? So I will share with you the next project that I'm going to cast on, and that also ties in nicely with stash enhancement. Now I'm just going to issue a bit of a caveat before I share my stash enhancements. I have been on some quite strong painkillers, and for a while after my surgery I was suffering from quite a sore wrist, which is a bit unexplained because I had a back surgery. I can only think that my arm knocked against something while I was under anaesthetic. I had a really bad pain in my bone of my wrist here, and it was really affecting my knitting. Sadly, it didn't affect my ability to buy things, so there has been quite a lot of stash enhancements, but I do blame it on the drugs. I do blame it on not being able to knit, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So let's share them with you. Okay, first of all, forgive me while I do the leaning thing. My second skein of yarn from Homespun House Harry Potter yarn and Sucra Sucra Miniature Club turned up, and it is this beautiful skein here, which I've forgotten the name of, and it is Weasley is Our King. And isn't it just beautiful? So remember what I was saying about one gorgeous skein of yarn. How beautiful would that look as a Fireflies Rising shawlette? It would look really beautiful. So that was the yarn. I particularly love this area here. Molly is such a genius dyer. Her yarn is beautiful. I've got one more skein of this to come. I think it was a 3-month subscription, so can't wait. It's always such a surprise to see what genius she's dyed up this time. So that was the skein of yarn. Forgive me, I think I've got a bit of loose hair that's going into my eye, which is causing me a problem. And the charm, which is Sucra Sucra Miniatures. I'm going to take it out of the packet and share it with you, because because it is a little cupcake with, let's try and keep it still, shall we, with frosting and more frosting and sprinkles, and what I think is either a little tiny gold star, or is it a crown for Weasley as our king? Now, Molly did say on her last vlog / podcast that it wasn't immediately obvious why this charm went with the kit, and I was hoping she was going to explain sooner. So I'm a bit intrigued. I'm not really sure why this is the Weasley is our king charm. It's really pretty and I love it, but I'm hoping that next time Molly does a vlog or a podcast that she'll share the secret. I'll be interested to know why, but it is lovely. So that was one bit of stash enhancement. The next bit of stash enhancement was from Amy of the Little Tailoress podcast, and I bought some stitch markers, progress keepers from her, and I bought the little bird charm here and the freshwater pearls, which are so pretty. And Amy kindly sent me the strawberry as an extra, so thank you for that, Amy. That was very sweet of you. But how cute is this bird cage? It's incredible. And I've kept these on the card because I have ordered from Amy a Find Your Fade shawl kit in her colourway that she did hers in. So I'm waiting for that to arrive, and then I'm going to be using one of these progress keepers on that. So that is absolutely beautiful, and I can't wait to see it with Amy's yarn as well. Okay, magazine kick now. You've probably seen these all over podcasts and Instagram and everywhere. Some magazines that have popped up lately that have got some absolutely stunning patterns in. I've got lots of little post-it notes in these, so I didn't lose my place showing you the things that I love the most. So I'll start off first with the Pom Pom Quarterly, which is the 5th anniversary edition, which I'm sure lots of you have got, and if you haven't got, it's great. And there was also available the reprint of the very first issue, which they've done with a sort of a stitched binding, which is quite a nice touch. I'll just share with you quickly a couple of the patterns that really caught my eye from these magazines. When I say magazines, they're so lovely. The print quality is so nice. They're more like books. The first one, if I take that post-it out, is this anniversaire cardigan. I think it's mostly the colour that really says it. It's a beautiful mustardy yellow. And it's knitted, it's by Vera Valimaki. It's been knitted in a DK weight yarn by La Bien-Aimée. And I think it's absolutely stunning. I don't know if I've got the knitting stamina to complete a whole cardie of cable work. I'm sure I have, but I would like to. But look at the detail there. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. And I think for, you know, sort of autumn and winter, what an amazing cardie. So that's one of my faves. And the next one is the soiree jumper or sweater, which is so pretty. This crop shape, I'm not sure it's really the right sort of design for my body shape, but I'm guessing with like a t-shirt, a long sleeve t-shirt underneath and jeans for the winter would work really well. I think this is the one that Amy from Stranded podcast is knitting at the moment in her Shiner yarn, which is going to be so beautiful when it's knitted up. But this calls for Polworth and alpaca and mohair lace. So it's got that nice sort of halo sort of bloom to it. And the pattern is by Emily Foden. So that's another one that I really like in this magazine. Next one has to be a shawl, doesn't there? So the next one is the Shindig shawl. And again, I think it's the colours that are grabbing me on this. This beautiful sort of like limey chartreuse green with the crisp of the white. and I am a sucker for stripes, so I love anything stripy. So that's really, really pretty. That's again another DK weight, so it would knit up quite quickly. Really liking that. That's by Sashiko Birkin, and the yarn is Julie Asselin Lezu DK. But really, really pretty. I like that one. There's so much in this magazine. It's amazing. And finally, by our lovely Hohi, whose patterns we all love, these bonbon mitts with a bit of cable work and the really cute little pom-poms on. So I think they're amazing. And that is a Quince & Co yarn called Phoebe. I'm not sure of the weight of it. I'd imagine it's probably a finger in weight. But yeah, so that's what I'm loving from this magazine. I also, before I was off for my surgery, I popped into Loop in London and picked up this copy of Lane magazine. This is so lovely. If you don't have a copy and you can still find one available, treat yourself because it's amazing. It's such a beautiful magazine. Again, more like a book. Bit bigger than Pom Pom, the format of it, but the same beautiful photography, beautiful features, lovely heavyweight sort of paper, almost like a cardstock weight, and it's got that nice feel to it. It feels like a quality magazine, or more of a book really. It is £20, but there's so much in here, and it's the sort of thing that you're never going to throw it away. It's just going to sit on your knitting shelf, your knitting library. So I'll share a couple of the patterns. Well, I'll fess up now. There was one pattern in here, which is the reason why I bought it, which is the Birds of a Feather Shawl by Andrea Mowry. So I'll show you that first, because I think I'm going to be knitting all the Andrea Mowry patterns. So that's the Birds of a Feather Shawl. Now I realise that eventually these patterns do find their way onto Ravelry, but I couldn't wait that long. I just had to see it and know that I probably won't even knit it straight away, but I just had to have it. Does that make sense? So this is knitted in hedgehog fibres, I believe, in the mohair and in like a sock or singles sort of fingering weight. I think it's absolutely stunning. So that's going to be on my list of things to knit. And there are another couple of lovely patterns in here. Well, there's lots of lovely things in here. Another one is a cardigan, which is this one called Utu. And this is knitted in snail yarn in like a gradient. It is the one that's on the cover. I'll just show you the next page though, because it's lovely. You can just see the back of the cardigan, and it's got some nice detailing at the top and that beautiful subtle gradient, which looks so, so pretty. And another one which is absolutely stunning is a colourwork yoke pattern design here called Birkin. And how lovely is that? Again, could I do that? Yeah, I probably could. I knitted the barbel hat, so I'm guessing it's not that much different, just a bit more detailed, but it's absolutely stunning. So Lane magazine, fabulous. I wish they did a subscription for it, but at least a lot of the nice knitting shops have online. So I should be looking out for the next issue later on in the year, because this is spring summer issue 2. I wish I had issue 1. I should really have a look and see if I could get hold of it. So that's my my new magazine stash. Okay, so what's up next? I have got, oh yeah, it's a bit of stash enhancement, and it's also what I'm going to be doing next. So I mentioned I was going to be on a bit of an Andrea Mowry kick. So Faded is going to be my next cast on. In the next couple of days I'm going to hopefully get this cast on. I'm going to knit the longer sleeve version, and this is a bit cropped, I believe, the one she uses in the images. Yeah, look. I'm going to be going for more this sort of length with the longer sleeves, because whilst that looks fab on Andrea, this isn't going to look fab on Nicola, so we're going to go for this one. And I have bought some stunning yarn for this, which I'm going to share with you. And this is all from Mr. B, which is, I don't know if you're all familiar with Bird Street UK, which is Claire's Etsy shop selling handmade project bags and hand-dyed yarn. And this is her husband, Mr. B's yarn. Oh my God, he's a genius, isn't he? So this is 3 skeins. She popped a picture up on their Instagram of a fade set or some yarns they thought would make a lovely fade. And I have got, I'm going to try and hold these all up so you can see the beautifulness that is Mr. B's yarns. Now that's not really doing them justice, so I'll go through them. And I have to say a really huge thank you to Claire and her husband for sending me an extra skein of yarn as a get well present. So thank you so much. That was really kind of you and really, really appreciated. I was like quite teary when you said it was a gift for me. So thank you ever so much, Claire and Mr. B, for that. I just can't wait to use this yarn. Let me tell you the colours. So this one is, first of all, they are all, I believe, 75% merino, 25% nylon and 425 metres in a skein. So this one is Foraging for Berries, and you can see these lovely deep berry stains, almost like you have been picking berries. Got all the lovely greens and neutrals, but those sort of like stains you get on your fingers when you've been picking blackberries and the like in the autumn. So that's one, and beautifully speckled, so that's going to work so well in the fade. I'll pop them over as I go through them. This next one is Picking Blackberries, so you can see the theme there, and these lovely deep blackberry coloured speckles. So that's that one. Then we go to Urban Decay 2 in all these shades of blue and teal and greens in there, and then these odd flashes of rust, almost this sort of like industrial urban decay vibe that they've got going on. But again, beautifully dyed. Really love that colour. Next up, following the blue theme, is Teal Pools. I love this sort of aqua colour, is just my fave, with these lovely teal speckled areas. That's that one, Teal Pools from Mr. B. And then we go to Pink Champagne, which is so pretty. Deep splashes of magenta-y pink there. This soft sort of ballet pink. Little spots of creamy yellow. These are such fantastic yarns. I can't praise them highly enough. So that one is Pink Champagne. And finally, Dry Stone Wall, which I think is a fabulous colourway name. So this is a neutral creamy colour with some splashes and speckles of dark green, sort of that rusty colour, little sort of yellowy orange flashes in there. Absolutely stunning. So I think it's probably the nicest yarn I've had for a very long time, and I just say go along to their shop on Etsy, to Bird Street UK, and they had popped in some bluey fade sets the other day, I noticed, which was stunning. I had to look away because I know what would have happened if I'd have lingered. But have a look, because the yarns are just fabulous. So, so pretty. So that's going to be my So Faded sweater. And Claire also sent me a little stitch marker, which is a little fox on there, and a little note. Yeah, so the shop is birdstreetuk.etsy.com. So just, if you can just see that there. And a little card with the feather. So pretty. And finally, now So Faded is going to be quite a big project, and so is my Find Your Fade shawl. So I figured that I might need something to stow all that yarn in while I'm knitting. Isn't it lovely? Charcoal grey field bag by Fringe Supply Company. It's quite stiff at the moment because it's new, and it's this lovely canvas and a little label there and the leather handle. The handle is a little bit paler than I've seen some of the images. I'm wondering actually if I could put some sort of like beeswax on it. Maybe I should just not mess around with it. But it's lovely. I'm sure lots of you have got these already, and I'm telling you stuff you know already. But it's so roomy. It's got pockets inside. It's got eyelet pockets so that if you're doing colour work or working from a couple of different, you know, alternating skeins or fading or whatever, you can, I don't know if the camera can pick that up. But there is a section in here, which, there we go, which has got the eyelet, so you can feed your different yarns through. And I had all 6 skeins of my Mr. B's yarn in this bag, so I'm going to put them all in again, just because I like doing it, and show you. I'm just amazed how big these bags are. So there they all are, 6 skeins, so that's going to be perfect. It's actually quite heavy. That's going to be perfect for my So Faded and my Find Your Fade and all the other things that I need to be knitting. I picked this up from Yak in Brighton. I was actually down there for work and thought I'd make a little trip, a little detour into Yak and have a look and treat myself to one of these. But I went on a Monday, which is their closing day, so I was really disappointed. So literally as soon as I got home, placed an order online to secure this little charcoal bag, because yeah, I was quite disappointed because I really want to have a look. So I know they stock some beautiful yarns, but it's probably a blessing in disguise, because at least by ordering online I only bought the bag. If I'd have gone into the shop, who knows. So that is, I've talked to you about the knit along, and I've shared my finished objects, works in progress, what I've been buying, which is the naughty bit, and what I'm going to be knitting, which is my So Faded. So I think that has probably covered everything. So it's actually a little bit shorter than I was expecting for this podcast, but it's not such a bad thing. I've probably been really rambling and talking really quickly. So I should just finish off by saying there is an extra week to go for the Try Something New Cal. So you've still got time to try something new. Whips are allowed, so if you've been working on something, finish it off and pop it in the finished objects thread, chatter on the chatter thread, and remember that I have added the extra special prize, which is the lovely Sherry Iris bag and the Parma Violets yarn, which is so gorgeous. I think they go really well together. I will wish you all happy knitting. I will be back, well, not next Sunday, because that will be the last day of the knit along. I think it will be the Sunday after that, so I shall keep you all in suspenders to know the results of the prize giving for the knit along. But have a lovely time with your knitting, have a lovely time with whatever you're doing. Pop back and see me in 2 weeks' time. We can share prizes and see what we've all been up to. Thank you ever so much for popping back. Take care. Bye.